Sunshine once made Arizona glow with promise. Today, that same bright light reveals a graveyard of broken dreams right in Phoenix, the state's beating heart. Rows of tents sprawl under dusty bridges. Moms and dads work all day, then crawl into beat-up cars to sleep. Parks have become frail shelters for veterans and grandparents who once served their country with pride. This is no longer the land of fresh starts. It is where hope melts away. In this video, we drag the camera to an Arizona the travel ads never show. Ghost towns rise where lively streets used to roar, and the warning is clear. If it can happen here, it can happen anywhere in America. Arizona used to be the promised land. A dry climate, low bills, and a tight community drew thousands who needed peace after hard years of work. Now those same magnets push people out. The latest HUD 2025 count shows more than 14,737 Arizonans without stable shelter. Over half sleep totally outside. Phoenix once bragged that retirees would flock here to bask in golden sunsets. Yet almost 9,734 residents in the city have no secure roof. 1/3 are older than 55. They once had jobs and insurance and cozy houses. Now, under 115-degree heat, they drape tarps, crouch under stale bridges, and pray the desert sun does not claim them next. The crisis is no longer about a few people who stumbled. It is about an entire forgotten generation. Support budgets got slashed, housing plans stalled in endless red tape, and leaders focused on cleaning streets to impress tourists. The very citizens who trusted the state are now seen as clutter on an investor's map. Think about this. In a place famous for sunlight, outdoor graves are slowly forming. Seniors, the sick, even kids growing up in rusty trucks fade for the public eye. The empty lanes of Yuma, the boarded windows of Kingman, and the once buzzing tourist spots now echo like hollow shells. This does not look like the America many of us remember. Arizona's saga is bigger than housing. It is a collapse of trust, neighborliness, and shared duty. Cheap housing programs vanish. Waiting lists stretch for years. Rents rocket upward. Power bills jump each month. And help requires stacks of proof, so thick you almost need to be homeless twice to qualify. It is deeply American and deeply painful. A nation that once boasted every person could restart has no space for people who built that dream. If a place billed as the final safe harbor now shoves out its own residents, what is left for the rest of us who still cling to hope? Picture this. A baby is born homeless on day one. Hard to believe, right? Yet children enter this world inside old SUVs parked beneath that 115-degree furnace. Jane's story proves it. She and her partner lived in their car for months after both lost jobs and savings. When she learned she was pregnant, she searched for help. A stable room, a clinic visit, a safe bed for delivery. Every door slammed shut. Most shelters in Arizona bar couples, much less families with newborns. Jane, carrying a tiny heartbeat, could not find medical care, a bed, or even a bathroom. She went into early labor inside that same car. No crib, no air conditioning, only grit and a mother's instinct to guard her child, right in the center of a city once sold as a cradle of hope. Jane pleads, "Honestly, I just want help getting into a place, so we can relax maybe a week, put our feet up and soak in a bath or something, and then, give us time to go get a job, it's really hard." Jane's ordeal is not rare. The frightening truth is that no one knows how many parents like her exist. The state does not track pregnancies among unhoused people. That means women like Jane and their babies vanish from statistics, from aid plans, from public memory. Across Arizona, only a handful of spots accept pregnant women. Maggie's Place, one of the few sanctuaries, holds just 26 beds, and they stay full. Much of the aid relies on big hearts of doctors, nurses, and volunteers. Some caregivers even pay for hotel rooms with their own paychecks because they know that without it, mothers will give birth in cars or alleyways. The unseen tragedies keep coming. A newborn was left near a campfire in the tent city locals call the zone, shocking everyone who heard. Other women do not realize they are pregnant or hide it, afraid the state will take their children. Many slide into addiction without treatment and sink deeper into despair. Even so, quiet heroes keep fighting. Doctors at the West Valley OBGYN Center build makeshift shelters and track patient data on their own in hopes of nudging lawmakers to act. But reality hits hard. The budget gave $200,000 to Maggie's Place in 2024, yet current leaders want to chop that funding. These fragile lifelines could snap at any moment. Walk down Van Buren Street at dusk. You will not hear laughter. You will hear the hiss of small generators powering tired fans. Water bottles stand in rows for ration time. Volunteers dash in with ice, then race back to cooled vans before the heat wins. Head to Yuma. Its main street now hides behind plywood. The diner that sold blueberry pie for 50 years is gone. Customers stayed away once tents filled the riverbank. Kingman whispers only to the wind. Motels offer bargain rates, yet fill with working families who cannot afford apartment deposits. One clerk says each night she rents a room to someone still wearing uniform from an 8-hour shift. These sights send a chill because homelessness now sits in the center of towns, in the center of our future. Why'd it get this bad? Permits stall under zoning fights. Wages drag behind rent. Heat rises. Air conditioners fail. Power bills explode. Each small blow stacks until one push sends a family spiraling. Yet hope can grow even in scorched soil. Community kitchens open behind churches every Friday. A retired builder patches roofs on charity homes. Students from Arizona State tutor kids in the camps, so they keep up in school. These sparks matter, but they need real fuel from leaders. Experts say rapid shelter, long-term housing, and mental health help work elsewhere. Arizona could follow that map if decision-makers choose people over appearances. Cutting aid will only deepen the desert's wounds. The fate of Arizona is a mirror. It shows where any state could land if it ignores these signs. We must face the glare and decide whether sunlight will expose more graves or warm, fresh foundations. Phoenix is boiling at 45 degrees Celsius, and the old green space known as Perry Park has turned into a furnace of invisible souls. Once a spot for picnics and soccer games, the park now overflows with ragged tents, cardboard huts, and scorched hopes. Unemployed elders, people fighting heavy thoughts, and whole families with tiny kids huddle each night beneath flimsy tarps that flap in the burning wind. Lorraine and Robert J. are among them. They sleep under thin fabric with no clean water, no power, and no real rest, because closing their eyes can cost them everything. Some have lived like this since they were 15, and today at nearly 50, they still have never stayed in a real house. They did not choose this life. The life chose them after pandemic evictions, job cuts, expired vouchers, and untreated illness pushed them over the edge. Despair sticks to them like sweat in the desert heat. Neighbors gaze at Perry Park with hearts torn between pity and fear. Many call Phoenix Cares, the homeless program, begging officials to clear trash and calm late-night fights. Yet each sweep feels like pouring one cup of water on a wildfire. Days later the tents rise again, sometimes thicker than before. City Hall even admits the failure. An official once said, "If there are people living on the streets, that is a failure of the system." The words hang in the air like dust, because owning the mistake is not the same as fixing it. Phoenix got more than $100 million in federal help since 2021, but by mid-2022, less than 10% was used. People still sleep in dirt while paperwork crawls. A new shelter with 200 beds glimmered like a miracle, yet the project may run out of funds by the end of 2025. Perry Park stands as a burning symbol of delay, mixed messages, and nervous leaders, and the silence costs everyone way too much. Drive away from Phoenix, and towns like Kingman, Yuma, and Bullhead City seem calm under blue skies. Empty roads, locked shops, and faded billboards whisper that something feels off, but the real hurt hides until you step closer. Then you see roofless houses, silent gas stations, and empty lots stuffed with tarp cities and dented cars that bake under the sun. These places were once safe havens for workers, retirees, and families craving low bills and warm winters. Arizona's dry air, low taxes, and cheap homes promised fresh starts. Now the same towns are forgotten shadows where both government and media seldom look. In Bullhead City, perched by the Colorado River, the count of people living in pickup trucks or tents has doubled in 3 short years. Yesterday's delivery drivers, retired guards, or single parents are today's unseen campers. One health scare, one rent hike, or one broken fan belt was enough to force them under plastic sheets begging to stay unseen. Kingman tells its own harsh tale. Streets that once buzzed with diners and thrift stores now echo only with the desert wind sweeping through cracked windows. Jobs vanished, small shops shuttered after the pandemic, and those still inside the city are too poor, too aged, or too tied down to leave. A community without enough life slowly drains like a heart losing blood. Tour brochures still sell the myth of endless sunshine and wild beauty. Visitors snap photos of shining resorts, spotless sidewalks, and fresh malls unaware that just behind manicured palms hundreds live as if a war rolled through. The crisis no longer lurks only in big cities. It smolders at the edges where help is thin and danger thicker. When a town lacks full schools, staffed clinics, and open grocery stores, the warning is louder than any alarm. These gaps show a place sliding toward collapse. Yet the ghost towns of Arizona rise not in science fiction, but on real streets walked each day by citizens who once believed the American dream was theirs. Now glance at that harmless-looking minivan on the curb, or the SUV with curtains tucked behind a Walmart lot. Inside those wheels beats the last shelter a person owns. Thousands across Arizona sleep in cars, not chasing adventure, but because every other door slammed shut. Wages froze while rent exploded. Illness struck breadwinners. Layoffs spread like wildfire. The car became a temporary bed, then the only bed. Parking lots in Phoenix glow like secret villages after dark. Each vehicle carries a chapter of heartache. A 60-year-old former electrical engineer has spent 5 years in a pickup. A mother and 2 toddlers share a space barely longer than a couch. An elderly pair hide in an old RV because property tax and insurance buried their budget. Many still work day shifts delivering parcels, caring for elders, or serving meals. Yet at night they back their cars into quiet corners near dumpsters, hoping no one knocks. They mask their true address, wash in public restrooms, and pray for dawn to arrive without trouble. Even those 4 wheels are under siege. Several Arizona cities ban overnight parking on public streets. Officers can tap on windows, ordering drivers to move, or even tow the vehicle for safety rules. Losing the car means losing the last roof, the last seat belt against total ruin. The scariest part is that no one can count this hidden crowd. Car dwellers dodge official surveys, cannot squeeze into packed shelters, and refuse to leave kids, pets, or cherished keepsakes behind. They show no cardboard signs, yet they live every hour with tight shoulders and the fear of discovery. Remember that heat is not just a number on a thermometer. At 45 degrees, shoes soften on asphalt, water in bottles turn scalding, and a 5-minute walk feels like standing before a blast furnace. Doctors see sidewalk burns that look like iron stamps. Yet many unhoused people cannot reach clinics miles away with no buses or spare cash. Inside Perry Park, volunteers hand out cool cloths, tiny milk cartons, and bag ice. Children squeal when the ice touches their skin, then swallow the pieces because melted drops taste like life. Lorraine whispers that the worst part is not hunger, it is the thirst that cracks lips and clouds vision. One evening a church van brings 20 pizzas, and the line curls twice around the rusted slide. By the last slice, a new wave of people steps from the shadows, hoping for crumbs. Tomorrow the van may not return, and no one knows who will fill the gap. Mental health teams see heat-driven panic. People shout at invisible friends, pace under bridges, or collapse in sunstroke. An ambulance ride can wipe any scrap of savings. so many gamble with death instead. The desert once promised healing skies. Now those skies act like a lid on a boiling pot. Dust storms sweep camps, turning lungs gray and coating thin blankets with grit. Power lines hum above, but offer no outlet for a fan. Outreach workers carry notebooks packed with names and lost phone numbers. Tents shift nightly to dodge sweeps. Yet one worker counted 50 families in a single square mile. A week later, the number hits 63. Many locals still think the crisis looks smaller than news says. The illusion stands because car dwellers fold tarps at dawn and dress for work by sunrise. Poverty hides until someone pulls back the curtain, and by then the person behind it may be beyond help. Rapid housing funds, mobile cooling buses, and fast vouchers work elsewhere. Experts beg leaders to copy those plans before the next summer scorches more lives. Until then, the shadow world inside parks, alleys, and Walmart lots keeps expanding, waiting for the rest of America to look straight at it. Nonprofit crews race to carve out safe parking zones where people sleeping in cars can rest without a midnight knock. They haul in portable toilets, jugs of drinking water, and visiting nurses. Yet the handful of lots they open is a drop in the desert compared with the tidal wave of need, especially in small towns where help is almost invisible. Think about the sting of that reality. In a nation with millions of vehicles, seas of parking lanes, and billions poured into roads, far too many citizens beg for one marked space to call home, and even that request goes unanswered. When a car, long hailed as a symbol of movement and freedom, turns into a rolling coffin for shattered dreams, how much longer can we look away? The numbers glare like warning lights. In Arizona, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment has jumped nearly 32% in only 3 years. Wages did not even come close to matching that leap. Apartments once listed at $300 now hover near $700, a price tag that even full-time workers struggle to meet. Retirees feel the squeeze first. A typical pension or Social Security check lands between $500 and $800 per month. One rent payment can swallow that whole. Toss in medicine for diabetes, an electric bill during a 115-degree summer, or a single doctor visit, and many seniors crash onto the street within weeks. It is not only shelter. Food costs soared 11% over the past year. Power bills leap more than 25% as families crank air conditioners to survive the record heat. This is no ordinary inflation. It is a silent blade slicing into lives already perched on the edge. Ask yourself this: if 60 years of honest work ends beneath a tarp, who will still believe in the promise of fairness? No one plans to finish life in an old truck. Yet Arizona's camps prove a hard truth. Even those who serve the country now struggle to find a safe bed in old age. Walk through tent rows in Phoenix, Yuma, or Kingman. You will meet retired teachers, long-haul drivers who once crossed every freeway, and veterans who stood guard in Iraq. They trusted that pensions and health plans would shield them, but exploding rent, shrinking insurance, and snail-paced benefit checks crushed that hope. One man in Perry Park, 68 years old, and once a public library clerk, shared his plight. He saved enough to cover 5 years of retirement, then waited for subsidized housing. 3 years later, his application still sits in a file. Each dawn, he wonders less about the future and more about surviving the night without being robbed or forgotten. A society is measured by how it treats its weakest link. What kind of community are we when elders who built the roads, taught the children, and kept the lights on now live as if they never mattered? Arizona is not falling in a single storm. It crumbles bit by bit. Lost roofs, forgotten workers, and broken promises. The homelessness emergency is a mirror reflecting an America that risks losing its identity through collective silence. If a generation that did everything right is pushed aside, what faith can the next generation hold? So we have to ask, who is this country being built for? And who is being left behind? Please share your view in the comments. And remember to like, share, and subscribe